Prime Minister Modi's first loyalty is towards the people of India, and it should never be towards the people of Ukraine or any other people. Ukraine perhaps does not realize that India has limited stakes. Oil prices have gone all wonky, and of course India is concerned. India wants this war to end. Let's be practical. You can have 10 more summits in Switzerland, but without inviting Russia to sit on the negotiating table, this war will not end. Will Prime Minister Modi be able to influence a ceasefire? Jen friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, don't forget to press the bell icon, and wish you a very, very happy Raksha Bandhan. To you, all our viewers, their families, everybody, hope this day brings lots of love, good wishes, and also prosperity. For a long time, our viewers have been asking us, we want a detailed podcast on Bangladesh, and we are trying to find the right kind of expert actually now, ladies and gentlemen. We have touched upon Bangladesh in an extremely cursory manner in the past, in the sense of podcasts. Of course, I've been very detailed in the Chanakya Dialogues English and Hindi, etc. But in the podcast, we haven't had a very detailed discussion on Bangladesh. This time we got Mrs. Veena Sikri, and she's been High Commissioner to Bangladesh. She's an expert. And some of the stuff that she has shared, it was, I mean, honestly shocking. And, but she's been there. She's met the Prime Minister of Bangladesh at that point in time. She's met the opposition people. She's gone to the countryside. She's gone to towns and villages. A person with fantastic exposure in Bangladesh. And the kind of stuff that you said in the podcast, I mean, it was education for me. You must watch. The link is below in the comment section. And, Wednesday evening, we're going to release it now. Now about the video today, ladies and gentlemen. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi is set to visit Poland and Ukraine between August 21st and 23rd. Now, Prime Minister Modi's one-day visit to Poland on August 21st marks the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to that country in 40 years after Morarji Desai visited in 1979. And former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi had visited the country before Morarji Desai. Prime Minister Modi's proposed visit to Kyiv thereafter comes nearly after a month he visited Russia. Prime Minister Modi is set to land, in the Polish capital Warsaw, where he's expected to hold talks with the Polish President Andrzej Duda and Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Prime Minister Modi is expected to go to the Ukrainian capital Kyiv from Warsaw for it's a half-a-day program there. He's going to be in Kyiv for just half a day. Before this, Prime Minister Modi had met Ukrainian President Zelensky on the sidelines of the COP26 summit in Glasgow, Scotland. On November 2nd, 2021, the two also met at G7 summit in Italy on June 14th, 2024. Now, India and Ukraine have a certain history. In December 1991, India also, there were many countries recognizing, and India too recognized Ukraine as a sovereign country. The Indian embassy in Kyiv was opened in May 1992. I'm telling you, all this because there is a certain background to the relationship of these countries, Ukraine and India. And when we opened our embassy in 1992, now Kashmir is something that is very, very, touchy as far as Indians are concerned. And they always ask, what is Ukraine's position on Kashmir? So Ukraine supports the resolution of the issue of Jammu and Kashmir on the basis of bilateral Shimla agreement by India and Pakistan. This was in 1972, of course. And during the Aero India 2021, Ukraine signed 4 agreements with India worth 530 crores for the sale of new weapons as well as maintenance and upgrades of existing ones in service with the Indian Armed Forces. Talking about the space, both National Space Agency of Ukraine and ISRO have an ongoing cooperation in the space sector. There is also a small and vibrant Indian community in Ukraine, comprised mostly of business professionals in the field of pharmaceuticals, IT, engineering, medicine and education, and with around 18,000 students studying mainly medicine. It is important to note that President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized Prime Minister Modi's July 2024 visit to Moscow, calling it a huge disappointment and a devastating blow to peace efforts. Even before this, Ukraine criticized India for profiting from buying cheap Russian oil, saying that pretending to be neutral equals taking Russia's side. Now, I'd like to explain before I go further. Now, essentially what is happening here is that Ukraine, of course, has its own ideas about the world and how the world should react to the conflict. Ukraine perhaps does not realize that India has limited stakes. Okay? And this is not to say that India is not impacted. The world is impacted. right? And perhaps me using the phrase limited stakes is not entirely accurate because supply chains have been devastated. Oil prices have gone all wonky. And of course, India is concerned. India wants this war to end. But Ukraine must also realize by simply finger pointing and saying that this is bad and India is profiting, of course India will profit. Of course, Prime Minister Modi's first loyalty is towards the people of India. And it should never be towards the people of Ukraine or any other people. We don't care. I mean, it's your war. What we can do at best is to ask both the parties to come on a common platform and talk about peace. But to think that Prime Minister Modi would say that, okay, I don't care about what the Indians want. I care about what the Ukrainians want. He'll never do that. He's been elected by the Indian people to take care of India. He hasn't been elected by the Indian people to take care of Ukraine. So if India profits, India will profit if there is profit to be made. And what is this profit? What is this profit that Ukraine is talking about? We have passed down that benefit to the common Indians. The government has made that profit and passed it down to the common Indians. And that is exactly the job. I think Zelensky should have done the same. Zelensky should have done the same rather than, criticizing India's actions. Anyway, that is a thing of the past. Now Prime Minister Modi is going to Ukraine and I think they will break new ground. During his visit to Russia, Prime Minister Modi had made a direct appeal to end the Ukraine war, which had been going on for over 2 years. That conversation when PM Modi was talking to President Putin regarding the sufferings faced by war-hit citizens, and especially when it came to children. And you know what the Prime Minister said? He said, when innocent children are murdered, when we see innocent children dying, it is heart-wrenching. That pain is immense. Friends, what the Prime Minister of India is trying to do is trying to actually signal to Ukraine and the rest of the world that you cannot have peace unless you bring Russia to the negotiating table. Now, people may mind. Ukraine may say, why is Prime Minister Modi going to Moscow? The West will throw a fit. But let's be practical. You can have 10 more summits in Switzerland. But without inviting Russia to sit on the negotiating table, this war will not end. It's not going to end. Now, what is it that you want from the war? Do you want the war to end? Or you want to break Russia? Or you want Ukraine to enter inside Russia and break Russia into various pieces? You want Russia to lose? What is the end game? Our end game that we have in mind is there should be immediate peace. And then you can have a discussion on how to end it. Whether Russia disengages, goes back, returns the territory, that is something that both the nations need to work out. But what India is saying is that stop the killing. And this is exactly what President Donald Trump, or former President Donald Trump has been saying, stop the killing. Why doesn't the West realize this? Why doesn't Zelensky realize this? Without talking to the Russians, there is no peace to be had in this conflict. Now, on his visit to Ukraine, Prime Minister Modi is likely to reiterate the same that he conveyed to the Russian President Putin on the Russia-Ukraine war. While trying to act as a mediator, Prime Minister Modi will also concentrate on bilateral issues such as increased trade and support in defense products, especially aircraft and marine engines from Ukraine. The world will also be eyeing Prime Minister Modi's visit to Poland. Both the countries share deep diplomatic trade and defense ties. Indian political leadership, were vocal supporters of Poland's struggle against the German invasion in the beginning of the World War in September 1939. Bilateral trade between two countries has been growing steadily and was 5.72 billion in 2023. India's major exports to Poland include tea, coffee, spices, textiles, pharmaceuticals, machinery, instruments, auto parts and surgical items. Indian companies such as Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, Wipro Technologies, Zensar and Videocon already have operations in Poland. When it comes to defense relations, India awarded contracts to Poland for modernization of tanks and the acquisition of air defense missiles. India also acquired 625 assault parachutes from the Polish company Airpol. Poland also delivered a batch of 80 WZT-3 armored vehicles to the Indian Army. Now, rift between Ukraine and Poland is also a factor here. In response to the Russian military buildup near Ukraine on 31st January 2022, Poland announced the decision to supply Ukraine with weapons and ammunition as well as humanitarian aid, given the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. However, on September 20th, 2023, Poland decided it should not supply weapons to Ukraine other than those previously agreed, amid tensions between the two countries over the Polish import ban on Ukrainian grain. A blockade was imposed. The question is, now, will Prime Minister Modi be able to influence a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine? Now, that is the big ticket item. So that is the golden question here, ladies and gentlemen. That is the 800-pound gorilla at the backseat of the car. Will Prime Minister Modi be able to influence a ceasefire. All said and done, one thing remains constant all throughout, and that is you cannot have peace between Russia and Ukraine without involving Russia, without asking Russia to sit on the negotiating table. You can have 100 summits all over the world, 100 peace summits saying that, Ukraine is here, America is here, India is there, Switzerland is there, and the rest of the world is watching. And let's talk peace. Doesn't make a difference. Unless Russia and Ukraine are sitting at the table, the world can surround them, exert diplomatic pressure on the both of them, and force them literally to shake hands and end this terrifying conflict which has cost tens of thousands of lives. Thank you very much for watching this, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.